Hello and welcome to the Gel Printing 101 Projects for Beginners series that I've created here on my YouTube channel. My name is Jenna McLean. I'm a printmaker, and in today's video I want to show you how to make gel prints that look like this. And if you're saying to yourself, my gosh, what is that? How did she create it? It's pretty simple. All you need is something made of cut glass. Now these items that I'm showing you belong to my grandma and other relatives. A lot of people have this kind of stuff around the house. You don't have to have a dish like this or even a decanter like this. If you just have a cut glass drinking or champagne glass, or even a salt and pepper shaker that has a design in it, anything that is made of crystal that has a design stamped into it, you can use for creating some really fun gel prints. So let's get going with the project. One of the things that I recommend is that when you start a project like this, that you begin with a dark colored paint. You could use a shade of black, Payne's gray, Prussian blue. The darker your original color is on the plate, the better off this print is going to look. And then for the pickup layer of paint, something very light like a titanium white or an unbleached titanium. You also don't have to use grandma's crystal. This is a very modernistic looking salt shaker that I have. You could use something like this. This is the lid to some kind of glass jar, and it has a design here that we can also use. So I am going to get paint on my plate, and I'm going to start with Prussian blue. And I have my scrap paper off to the right for rolling off excess paint, if there is any. I have another video called Avoid These 3 Gel Printing Mistakes that tells you exactly how much paint you should put on the plate, how much is too little, how much is too much, and that video will be linked below. Okay, this looks good. Now, here is the tricky part about working with these crystal or cut glass objects. Something like this that is rectangular or square, something that has a flat surface, is easy to work with. You just have to press it down and lift it like this. What's trickier is working with something that has a curved surface like this, because this is going to want to slide in the paint. Ask me how I know, because the first few times I tried something like this, these curved objects were sliding around and I got nothing but mush on my plate, and I had to keep doing it over and over again. So the key is to press down and kind of hold onto it hard so that it doesn't slide around too much. Let me take this and see what we get. I could feel that starting to slide. Try to avoid getting thumbprints on your plate. I'm going to try this modernistic looking salt shaker to see what happens. That creates kind of an interesting, very straight look. I'm going to go back in here with this. Notice how I'm rotating this curved surface one on the plate. You just can't plop it down. That's not going to work. You need to get one edge on the plate and then start to rotate it like that, and you'll get a good impression. Okay, I'm going to let this dry, which will probably take, in the weather we have today, about 5 or 10 minutes. And when it's dry, I'll come back and I'll put down the pickup layer. This is dry now, so I can put down the pickup layer, and as I just mentioned, you should use a light color. For this particular print, I think I used Payne's gray as the dark color, and then this was a very pale yellow that I used as the pickup color. Your pickup layer needs to be with a pale paint. This, I used a mix of purples and pinks and whites as my pickup layer, and I think I'm going to do that again with this particular print right here. So I have a lid from a takeout food. One of the reasons I have this here is that I'm going to squeeze a little bit of this pink in there and a little bit of this purple, and I'm going to take some white and mix these up a little bit. I just want to make them even lighter than they currently are. I'll take my white paint. I'll very carefully dab this pink on here. I don't want to use the knife too hard because I don't want to scrape away the texture that I already put on the plate. And I'm going to start to roll this out. I think I've got too much paint on here. carefully using my finger to lift it up. And then I'm going to use my big brayer to just get a nice smooth layer and to get rid of some of these brayer marks that were left by the small brayer. Let's put the paper on here. Rub it. And I will often put 2 heavy books on here while this dries to make sure that the paper is really sticking to those paint layers, so when I go to do the pull, everything comes up and you don't have paint sticking to the plate. That's one of the biggest questions I get is a problem that a lot of people have. They have paint sticking to the plate, and when they pull the paper back, it tends to tear. A lot of times it means that you just didn't leave the paper on long enough, or you didn't have enough weight on it. So I'm going to give this about 10 minutes to sit here, and then I'm going to come back and see if it looks like it's good enough to be pulled. Let's see if this is ready. I'm going to start pulling this. There's a little bit of paint left here, but I don't see any more, so I think we're good. And there we go. These cut glass pieces make for some really pretty prints. Another place you may want to look at home for some things to use on gel prints is your silverware drawer. I like to go to flea markets and pick up mismatched knives and forks and spoons. I deliberately mismatch them because I think that they have such a fun look when they're set on a table like that. These are not real silver. These were made over 100 years ago, I'm sure. This is silver plate, and there's some interesting designs that you could press into a gel plate. Here's a fork with a design, somebody's name is carved in there. Now some of these pieces are going to be a little bit hard to press into a gel plate. Like for instance, this fork, it curves up, so this could be problematic pressing into a plate. The gel plate, unless you lift up the plate and go like this, which you can do. But if you look at the underside of this fork, there's a design there, so you could just go like this and rock it back and forth. This is an old little bowl for salt instead of using a salt shaker. So I'm going to do another quick print on a smaller gel plate. I'm going to use my 5x7 plate. I'm going to give these a try and see how they look. I've never used these for a gel print, so this is going to be fun for me too. With this particular print, I think I'm going to use a mix of the Prussian blue and the Payne's gray on the top. And I found this piece, yet another piece from my grandma. She had a lot of this stuff. I think I'm going to use this really fun pattern as kind of the centerpiece. And this is a piece that belonged to a cousin of mine who died way too young. And one of the fun things about using things that belong to your relatives is that it does help you commemorate them in some way. Every time I make a print with things that belong to my relatives, I always have them in mind. And when it comes to finding things like this at the flea market or in garage sales, they're everywhere, and you can usually buy them for pennies on the dollar. So it's a cheap way to add some interest to your gel prints. Down the Payne's gray first, and then a little bit of the Prussian blue. I'm going to use my smaller brayer to roll this out. So I'm going to lay this down first, and I'm just going to lay it straight down. I'm not going to try to rock it. Whoops, it's sliding. I hope I get a good print. It's okay. It slid around a little bit, and this is going to be tricky. That looks a little strange, but I'll work with it. These objects are definitely sliding around in the paint. It's hard to get a really good print. Let's see what happens with some of these knives and forks. I am trying to rotate them a little bit. That one's not working so well. Let's see what happens with the back side of it. Oh, that's kind of interesting. I'll use the underside of this fork. Ooh, that's pretty. I am going to rock that one a little bit. This ought to be interesting. Let's see what happens here. See, I don't want this to land on this because I don't want to lift up the paint. Okay, I think that's it. Now the issue is when the paint starts to get too dry and you press something down into it and you lift up the object, you're just going to get a big white spot. You're just going to get a blotch, which is what I got here. So now I know it's time to let this dry. So we're going to give this about 10 minutes to dry, and then I'm going to come back and put the pickup layer on it. This paint is dry, so I'm going to add my pickup layer. I think I'm just going to stick with one color. I'm going to go with the milky white. My cousin was a big history buff. He loved American history, and he had this piece. It has George Washington's head. I hope you can see this on the camera in profile. So one day I decided to try to do this on the gel plate. Well, about 4 hours later, after trying 6 or 7 times, I finally got it. It was really hard to do because you had to keep rotating this piece to get his nose and his chin and all the other pieces on it. But here is the print. And I used some of the cut glass crystal that you saw earlier to do this top part. I did this in memory of my cousin. So you can find some really fun things out there in flea markets and garage sales and in your grandmother's attic, and use them for gel prints. Let's take a look at this. This is one of the best things about gel printing. You never know what you're going to see when you finally do the pull. Wow, that's crazy. I really like the way this came out. It's really super, all those details from the silverware and the crystal. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Gel Plate Printing 101 for Beginners. It's really fun to see what you can create with items that you find around the house, things that don't cost you any money really to use. And if you'd like to get a copy of my free gel plate printing supply list, it's about 10 pages of gel printing goodness. And in it, I have listed the kinds of paints you should get, the kind of plates, the kind of brayers, and so on. So look for that below the video. And if you have any questions or comments about today's video, please leave it in the comments and I'll be sure to get back to you.